just a short little intro to let you know I've got some stories for you, and I wanted to wish you Merry Christmas. So please, stick around. Hello, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everybody who's here today, this morning. This is Mickey Sunshine Creates, and I'm Mickey, and I want to welcome you to my channel and hope to keep you amused for a little while you guys who don't celebrate the holidays and don't have any family to go to can come in and chat with me and listen to my stories. I've got some funny stories. I've got some funny Christmas stories to tell you, and I think you're going to enjoy them. If you don't let me know. If you do, and you have a good time, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and hit the bell so you always know when I upload a new video or go live. And I go live every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. All right, let's get started. The first story I have is a legal establishment of facts regarding Christmas. I find this funny. If you've ever read a contract, oh my gosh. If you've ever read a contract, you know how complicated it can get. This is a play on a Christmas wish. I love this. Whereas, on or about the night prior to Christmas, there did occur at a certain improved piece of real property hereinafter the house, a general lack of stirring by all creatures therein, included, but not limited, to a mouse. A variety of foot apparel, example, stockings, socks, etc., had been affixed by and around the chimney in said house in the hope and or belief that Saint Nick, aka Saint Nicholas, aka Santa Claus, hereinafter Claus, would arrive at some time thereafter. The minor residents, i.e. children of the aforementioned house, were located in their individual beds and were engaged in nocturnal hallucinations, i.e. dreams, wherein visions of confectionery treats, including, but not limited to, candies, nuts, and or sugar plums, did dance, comport, and otherwise appear in said dreams. I'm sorry. Isn't that a hell of a way to read the night before Christmas? With all this legalese in it. I mean, I used to work as a legal secretary, a legal assistant, and then a paralegal. That was the way I went. So I know all about contracts and pleadings and everything else. You have to be precise. If you want to win your case, you have to be very precise, include everything you possibly can, because any loophole, well, you didn't say this, you didn't mention that. It didn't ruin your suit. So this is this is funny, at least to me. I hope some of you are finding this amusing. I am. Whereupon the party in the first part, sometimes hereinafter referred to as I, being the joint owner in fee simple of the house with the party of the second part, hereinafter Mama, as said Mama had retired for a sustained period of sleep. At such time, the parties were clad in various forms of headgear, example, kerchief and a cap. Suddenly, and without prior notice or warning, there did occur upon the unimproved real property adjacent and appurtenant to said house, i.e. the lawn, a certain disruption of unknown nature, cause, and or circumstance. The party of the first part did immediately rush to a window in the house to investigate the cause of such disturbance. Did arose such a clatter that I did not know what was the matter. I love this. I'm sorry. I do find this pretty funny. I hope, if you don't, at the time, you're going to be chatting also. I hope, you're chatting with each other. This is a premiere, and I'm here, but I'm not here. Said clause. Oh, look, at that time, the party of the first part did observe, and with some degree of wonder and or disbelief, a miniature sleigh, hereinafter the vehicle, being pulled and or drawn very rapidly through the air by approximately 8 reindeer. The driver of the vehicle appeared to be, and in fact was, the previously referenced clause. Said clause was providing specific direction, instruction, and guidance to the approximately 8 reindeer, and specifically identify the animal co-conspirators by name: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. Hereinafter, the deer. Upon information and belief, it is further asserted that an additional co-conspirator named Rudolph may have been involved. The party of the first part witnessed clause, the vehicle, and the deer intentionally and willfully trespass upon the roofs of several residences located adjacent to and in the vicinity of the house, and noted that the vehicle was heavily laden with packages, toys, and other items of unknown origin or nature. Suddenly, without prior invitation or permission, either express or implied, the vehicle arrived at the house, and clause enters said house via the chimney. Yeah. This is it's like a subpoena or like a pleading against someone. Said clause was clad in a red fursuit, which was partially covered with residue from the chimney, and he carried a large sack containing a portion of the aforementioned packages, toys, and other unknown items. He was smoking what appeared to be tobacco in a small pipe in blatant violation of local ordinances and health regulations. Come on. I need to breathe. I don't know how I'm going to finish this, because screw it. Okay, let's continue. Claus did not speak, but immediately began to fill the stocking of the minor children, which hung adjacent to the chimney with toys and other small gifts. Said items did not, however, constitute gifts to said minors pursuant to the applicable provisions of the U.S. tax code. Upon completion of such task, Claus touched the side of his nose and flew, rose, and or ascended up the chimney of the house to the roof, where the vehicle and deer waited and or served as lookouts. Claus immediately departed for an unknown destination. However, prior to the departure of the vehicle, deer, and Claus from said house, The party of the first part did hear Claus state and or exclaim, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night," or words to that effect. If you have no understanding of legalese, it's hard to figure this one out. But trust me. It's had me cracking up. The more I read it, the funnier I find it. Okay, next story, or whatever you want to call it. These are Santa facts. So these are facts about Santa. No known species of reindeer can fly, but there are 300,000 species of living organisms yet to be classified, and while most of these are insects and germs, this does not completely rule out our flying reindeer, which only Santa has ever seen. There are 2 billion children, persons under 18, in the world, but since Santa doesn't appear to handle the Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, and Buddhist children, that reduces the workload to 15% of the total, or 378 million, according to the Population Reference Bureau. At an average census rate of 3.5 children per household, that is 91.8 million homes, one presumes there's at least one good child in each. Santa has 31 hours of Christmas to work, thanks to the different time zones and the rotation of the Earth, assuming he travels east to west, which seems logical. This works out to 822.6 visits per second. This is to say that for each Christian household with good children, Santa has 1/1000th of a second to park, hop out of the sleigh, jump down the chimney, get back into the sleigh, and move on to the next house. Assuming that each one of these 91.8 million stops are evenly distributed around the Earth, which of course we know to be false, because for the purposes of our calculations, we will accept. We are now talking about 0.78 miles per household. A total trip of 75.5 million miles. Not counting stops to do what most of us must do at least once every 31 hours. Plus feeding, etc. This means Santa's sleigh is moving 650 miles per second. 3,000 times the speed of sound. For purpose of comparison, the fastest man-made vehicle on Earth, the Ulysses space probe, moves at a pokey 24.4 miles per second. A conventional reindeer can run tops 15 miles an hour. The payload on the sleigh weighs another interesting element. Assuming that each child gets nothing more than a medium-sized Lego set, 2 pounds, the sleigh is carrying 321,300 tons, not counting Santa, who is invariably described as overweight. On landing, conventional reindeer can pull no more than 330 pounds. Even granting that flying reindeer, 0.1, could pull 10 times the normal amount, we cannot do the job with 8 or even 9 reindeer. We need 214,200 reindeer. I love this. These are facts. This increases the payload, not even counting the weight of the sleigh, to 353,430 tons. Again, for comparison, this is 4 times the weight of the Queen Elizabeth. 353,430 430 tons, traveling at 650 miles per second, creates enormous air resistance. This will heat the reindeer up in the same fashion as spacecraft re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. The lead pair of reindeer will absorb 14.3 quintillion joules of energy per second each. In short, they will burst into flame almost immediately, exposing the reindeer behind them and creating deafening sonic booms in their wake. The entire rainbow team will be vaporized within 4.26 thousandths of a second. Santa, meanwhile, will be subject to centrifugal forces 17,500.06 times greater than gravity. A 250-pound Santa, which seems ludicrously slim, would be pinned to the back of his sled by 4,315,015 pounds of force. In conclusion, if Santa ever did deliver presents on Christmas Eve, he's dead now. I know, it's cruel, but think about it. Scientifically, and this is a scientific observation of what would be needed if there were, if Santa did all this without magic. Because we all know it's magic that Santa uses to get from place to place. He teleports, he doesn't walk. He's got psychic abilities so he can listen to children. He's got magic so he can go in and out a chimney, and he can teleport. I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but by the way, this is my diamond thing for holidays. It is called Magical View to Christmas by Nikki Bowen. It's 90 by 70 centimeters, and it is from Diamond Art Club. Now, they don't have this anymore. I understand that this particular picture you can now find it over at Dreamer Designs. I must have bought this a while ago. I don't even remember when I bought it. But let's go on to something else. Okay, here's another one that I haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it with you. But it looks interesting. Streamlining Christmas. Okay. The recent announcement that Donner and Blitzen have elected to take the early reindeer retirement package has triggered a great deal of concern about whether they will be replaced and about other restructuring decisions at the North Pole. Streamlining was appropriate in view of the reality that the North Pole no longer dominates the season's gift distribution business. Shopping channels and mail-order catalogs have diminished Santa's market share, and they could not sit idly by and permit further erosion of the profit picture. The reindeer downsizing was made possible through the purchase of a late-model Japanese sled for the CEO's annual trip. Improved productivity from Dasher and Dancer, who summered at the Harvard Business School, is anticipated and should take up the slack with no discernible loss of service. Reduction in reindeer will also lessen airborne environmental emissions, for which the North Pole has been cited and received unfavorable press. This is some news release. Okay, the reindeer downsizing was made. Oh, I did that already. I read that paragraph. I am pleased to inform you and yours that Rudolph's role will not be disturbed. Tradition still counts for something at the North Pole. Management denies, in the strongest possible language, the earlier leak that Rudolph's nose got away not from the cold, but from the substance abuse. Calling Rudolph a lush, who was into the circus and never did pull his share of the load, was An unfortunate comment made by one of Santa's helpers and taken out of context at a time of the year when he is known to be under executive stress. As a further restructuring, I love this, today's global challenges require the North Pole to continue to look for better, more competitive steps. Effective immediately, the following economy measures are to take place in the 12 days of Christmas subsidiary. Oh my gosh, I gotta read this. Okay, the partridge will be retained, but the pear tree never turned out to be the cash crop forecasted. It will be replaced by a hanging plant, providing considerable savings in maintenance. The two turtle doves represent a redundancy that is simply not cost effective. In addition, their romance during working hours could not be condoned. The positions are therefore eliminated. The 3 French hens will remain intact. After all, everyone loves the French. The 4 calling birds were replaced by an automated voice mail system and a call waiting option. An analysis is underway to determine who the birds have been calling, how often, and how long they talked. I love this. The 5 golden rings have been put on hold by the board of directors. Maintaining a portfolio based on one commodity could have negative implications for institutional investors. Diversification into other precious metals, as well as a mix of T-bills and high technology stocks, appear to be in order. The 6 geese a laying constitutes a luxury which can no longer be afforded. It has long been felt that the production rate of 1 egg per goose per day is an example of a decline in productivity. 3 geese will be let go, and an upgrading in the selection procedure by personnel will assure management that from now on, every goose it gets will be a good one. The 7 swans of swimming is obviously a number chosen in better times. The function is primarily decorative. Mechanical swans are on order. The current swans will be retrained to learn some new strokes and therefore enhance their outplacement. I love this. Oh, as you know, the 8 maids of milking concept has been under heavy scrutiny by the EEOC. A male-female balance in the workforce is being sought. The more militant maids consider this a dead-end job with no upward mobility. Automation of the process may permit the maids to try a mending, a mentoring, or a mulching. 9 ladies dancing. I can't talk, but this is me. Even reading something right in front of me, I can't read it. 9 ladies dancing has always been an odd number. This function will be phased out as these individuals grow older and can no longer do the steps. Oh my. 10 lords of leaping is overkill. The high cost of lords, plus the expensive international air travel, prompted the compensation committee to suggest replacing the group with 10 out-of-work police officers. While leaping ability may be somewhat sacrificed, the savings are significant because we expect an oversupply of unemployed officers this year. Now, 11 pipers piping and 12 drummers drumming is a simple case of the band getting too big. A substitution with a string quartet, a cutback on new music, and no uniforms will produce savings which will drop right down to the bottom line. We expect a substantial reduction in assorted people, fowl, animals, and other expenses. Though incomplete studies indicate the stretching deliveries over 12 days is inefficient, if we can drop and ship in 1 day, service levels will be improved. Regarding the lawsuit filed by the Attorneys Association seeking expansion to include the legal profession, 13 lawyers are litigating, action is pending. Lastly, it is not beyond consideration that deeper cuts happen. The board will request management to scrutinize the Snow White division to see if 7 dwarves is the right number. And B, change the 7 vertically challenged folk. They're not dwarves, they're vertically challenged folk. Okay. I'm sorry. I have lousy humor. Okay, here's another story. It's the Christmas Angel. These are funny. I'm sorry, I enjoy these. I hope you do too, as I've said before. The one particular Christmas season, a long time ago, Santa was getting ready for his annual trip. But there were problems everywhere. 4 of his elves got sick, and the training elves did not produce the toys as fast as the regular ones. So Santa was beginning to feel the pressure of being behind schedule. When Mrs. Claus told Santa that her mother was coming to visit, this stressed Santa even more. When he went to harness the reindeer, he found that 3 of them were about to give birth, and 2 had jumped the fence and were out, heaven knows where. More stress. Then when he began to load the sleigh, one of the boards cracked, and the toy bag fell to the ground and scattered the toys. Talk about a bad day. So frustrated, Santa went into the house for a cup of coffee and a shot of whiskey. When he went to the cupboard, he discovered that the elves had hidden the liquor, and there was nothing to drink. In his frustration, he accidentally dropped the coffee pot. It broke into hundreds of little pieces all over the kitchen floor. He went to get the broom and found that mice had eaten the straw it was made from. Ooh. Just then, the doorbell rang, and Santa cursed on his way to the door. He opened the door, and there was a little angel with a great big Christmas tree. All radiant and smiling, the angel said very cheerfully, "Merry Christmas, Santa. Isn't it just a lovely day? I have a beautiful tree for you. Isn't it a lovely tree? Where would you like me to stick it?" Thus began the tradition of the little angel on top of the Christmas tree. Oh my God. This is the first time I read this one. I wasn't expecting that. Oh man, that was a good one. Now you know the tradition of the little angel on top of the Christmas tree. Can't blame him. I'm just doing me. I never know what to say. I never know what to do, which is why I gathered those stories and those funny, well, they're not stories, they're funny statement, funny what? Funny things about Christmas. I love that. Oh, there's so many. It's hard to choose. And then some of them, they're too short. And I really don't want to, my throat's getting tired. Though I think I'm going to be recording this over a period of a few days and link it all together. Alrighty then, on to yet another story. This one is a little different. Santa Claus, the almost 100% true story. If you see my arm going in front of you, it's because that's where my iPad is and I'm reading from my iPad. I have no other place to put it. I really don't. Okay, a long time ago, in a place not a million miles from here, there lived a man. There was something very, very special about this man. This man was very rich. But that's not what made him special. Since the world began, well, almost, there have been lots of very rich men. But the man that we're talking about was also very, very kind. And that is what is special. Very, very, very special. The very rich man and the very, very kind man loved nothing more than to give presents in secret to the people around him. It made him happy, very, very happy. But one day he heard a story that made him sad. very, very sad. A long time ago, in a place not a million miles from here, there weren't the same opportunities for girls that there were for boys. Some might say that not much has changed, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, it wasn't this that made the very rich and very, very kind man sad. Not just that, anyway. It was this. One of his neighbors, a very old and a very poor man, had 3 daughters. A long time ago, in a place not a million miles from here, no matter how poor a family might be, they were expected to pay for their daughters' weddings. But this man couldn't afford to pay for one daughter's wedding, never mind 3. And he was proud, very, very proud. So although his 3 daughters had all found husbands-to-be who loved them and wanted them to follow their dreams and did not care a jot about money, the entire family was stuck. And it was that made the very rich and very, very kind man sad, because life is far too precious to waste a single day of it being stuck. And so the very rich and very, very kind man came up with a plan. On the first night, the very rich and very, very kind, let's call him Nicholas. On the first night, Nicholas dropped a bag of gold down the chimney of the very, very old and very poor, let's call him Ned. On the first night, Nicholas dropped a bag of gold down Ned's chimney. The bag of gold fell into a stocking that Ned's eldest daughter had hung beside the fire to dry. In the bag was just enough gold to pay for her wedding. And so she got married that very day. A long time ago, in a place not a million miles from here, people were really, really into lengthy engagements. On the third night, Ned wondered if the family's secret benefactor would return. He thought that the very least that he could do was say thank you. So he sat in a chair beside the fire and waited. But after 2 days of wedding celebrations, Ned was feeling tired, very, very tired. And his eyes were beginning to close when he heard a noise on the roof. Ned dashed outside and spotted Nicholas dropping a third bag of gold down his chimney. No prizes for guessing that. This time, the bag contained just enough gold to pay for a wedding for Ned's youngest daughter. Okay, I think they missed something here. What happened to the second daughter? He dropped the third bag of gold. He must have dropped the second bag of gold to the middle daughter. I'm going to make that assumption. Okay. "You've brought such happiness to my family," Ned shouted. "How can I ever repay you, bearing in mind that I am very, very old and very—" "I get it," replied Nicholas. "But there are lots of things that you can share with other people. Presents are lovely, but a kind word is too. A loving hug, a genuine smile, a helping hand. And it's sharing gifts like these that make our world a better and a happier place." Nicholas spent the rest of his life being very, very kind. So much so that when his life was over, he was made a saint. Saint Nicholas, or Santa Claus as he is now more commonly known. Of course, this all happened a very long time ago. A very, very long time ago. But you never know. Christmas is a magical time of year, and maybe, just maybe, if you hang up a stocking on Christmas Eve, Santa Claus will find a way to leave a special little something just for you. But remember, you don't need to wait until Christmas time to be very, very yourself, kind to yourself. Boy, I can't talk. But I love this story. Yeah, it is mostly written for children, but it does, it is the history that I learned about Santa Claus. And in a little while, and I think the next story, I'm going to let you know what I learned from History.com about Santa Claus. But you know why I end my videos and my lives with, in the meantime, be kind, be good, be nice, doesn't hurt, doesn't cost anything. You never know, you might make a friend. I always do this because to me, it's easier to be nice than to be nasty. And I'd rather be nice. A letter to Santa from Mom. Dear Santa, I've been a good mom all year. I've fed, cleaned, and cuddled my 2 children on demand, visited the doctor's office more than my own doctor, sold 62 cases of candy bars to raise money to plant a shade tree on the school playground, and figured out how to attach 9 patches onto my daughter's Girl Scout sash with staples and glue gun. I was hoping you could spread my list out over several Christmases, since I had to write this letter with my son's red crayon on the back of a receipt in the laundry room between cycles, and who knows when I'll find any more free time in the next 18 years. Here are my Christmas wishes. I'd like a pair of legs that don't ache after a day of chasing kids, in any color except purple, which I already have, and arms that don't flap in the breeze but are strong enough to carry a screaming toddler out of the candy aisle in the grocery store. I'd also like a waist, since I lost mine somewhere in the 7th month of my last pregnancy. If you're hauling big ticket items this year, I'd like a car with fingerprint-resistant windows and a radio that only plays adult music. A television that doesn't broadcast any programs containing talking animals, and a refrigerator with a secret compartment behind the crisper where I can hide to talk on the phone. She got to be really tiny. On the practical side, I could use a talking daughter doll that says, "Yes, Mommy," to boost my parental confidence, along with 1 potty-trained toddler. 2 kids who don't fight, 3 pairs of jeans that will zip all the way up without the use of power tools. I could also use a recording of Tibetan monks chanting, "Don't eat in the living room," and "Take your hands off your brother," because my voice seems to be just out of the children's hearing range and can only be heard by the dog. And please don't forget the Play-Doh travel pack, the hottest stocking stuffer this year for mothers of preschoolers. It comes in 3 fluorescent colors and is guaranteed to crumble on any carpet, making the in-laws' house seem just like mine. If it's too late to find any of these products, I'd sell for enough time to brush my teeth and comb my hair in the same morning, or the luxury of eating food warmer than room temperature without it being served in a styrofoam container. If you don't mind, I would also could use a few Christmas miracles to brighten the holiday season. Would it be too much trouble to declare ketchup a vegetable? It will clear my conscience immensely. It would be helpful if you could coerce my children to help around the house without demanding payment as if they were the bosses of an organized crime family, or if my toddler didn't look so cute sneaking down to eat contraband ice cream in his pajamas at midnight. Well, Santa, the buzzer on the dryer is ringing, and my son saw my feet under the laundry room door. I think he wants his crayon back. Have a safe trip, and remember to leave your wet boots by the chimney. Come in and dry off by the fire so you don't catch cold. Help yourself to cookies on the table, but don't eat too many or leave crumbs on the carpet. Yours always, Mom. P.S. One more thing. You can cancel all my requests if you can keep my children young enough to believe in Santa. What do you think? Talk amongst yourselves. I love this. I'm sorry. And we have a sort of story. It's the history of Santa Claus. The real history, not the one I read before, which was basically written for children. But this one says that Santa Claus, otherwise known as St. Nicholas, or Kris Kringle, has a long history steeped in Christmas traditions. Today he's mainly the jolly man, in red who puts toys. But his story, oh, I'm in good shape today, ain't I? Stretches all the way back to the 3rd century, when he walked the earth and became the patron saint of children. Let's take a look at his earliest origins to the shopping mall Santas of today. The original legend of Santa Claus can be traced back hundreds of years to a monk named Nicholas. It is believed that Nicholas was born sometime around AD 280, in Patara, near Myra, in modern-day Turkey. Interesting. Much admired for his piety and kindness, Nicholas became the subject of many legends. It is said that he gave away all of his inherited wealth and traveled the countryside helping the poor and sick. One of the best-known St. Nicholas stories is the time he saved 3 poor sisters from being sold into slavery or prostitution by their father by providing them with a dowry so that they could get married. Now, we read this in there. Over the course of many years, Nicholas's popularity spread, and he became known as the protector of children and sailors. I have no idea why sailors are included, but there you go. His feast day is celebrated on the anniversary of his death, December 6th. This was traditionally considered a lucky day to make large purchases or to get married. Interesting. By the Renaissance, St. Nicholas was the most popular saint in Europe. Even after the Protestant Reformation, when the veneration of saints began to be discouraged, St. Nicholas maintained a positive reputation, especially in Holland. Interesting. Okay, Sinterklaas comes to New York. In Dutch, Santa Claus is Sinterklaas. St. Nicholas made his first inroads into American popular culture. I'm terrible at this. Towards the end of the 18th century. Wow, a long time ago. In December 1773 and again in 1774, a New York newspaper reported that groups of Dutch families had gathered to honor the anniversary of his death. The name Santa Claus evolved from Nick's Dutch name, Sinterklaas, a shortened form of Saint Nick, Dutch for Saint, a shortened form of Sint Nicolaas, Dutch for Saint Nicholas. Distributed woodcuts of Saint Nicholas at the Society's annual meeting. The background of the engraving contains now familiar Santa images, including stockings filled with toy and fruit hung over a fireplace. In 1809, Washington Irving helped to popularize Sinterklaas stories when he referred to St. Nicholas as the patron saint of New York in his book, The History of New York. As his prominence grew, Sinterklaas was described as everything from a rascal with a blue three-cornered hat, red waistcoat, and yellow stockings, to a man wearing a broad-brimmed hat and a huge pair of Flemish trunk hose. That's in quotes. Interesting, isn't it? He's not always been in his red suit. As for shopping mall Santas, gift giving, mainly centered around children, has been an important part of the Christmas celebration since the holiday's rejuvenation in the early 19th century. Stores began to advertise Christmas shopping in 1820, and by the 1840s, newspapers were creating separate sections for holiday advertisements which often featured images of the newly popular Santa Claus. In 1841, thousands of children visited a Philadelphia shop to see a life-size Santa Claus model. It was only a matter of time before stores began to attract children and their parents with the lure of a peek at a live Santa Claus. In the early 1890s, the Salvation Army needed money to pay for the free Christmas meals they provided to needy families. They began dressing up unemployed men in Santa Claus suits and sending them into the streets of New York to solicit donations. Those familiar with Salvation Army Santas, I am, have been ringing bells on the street corners of American cities ever since. I am a terrible storyteller. I keep hesitating. Perhaps the most iconic department store Santa is Kris Kringle in the 1947 classic Santa Claus movie, Miracle on 34th Street. Oh, I love that movie. I love that movie. I watch it every year. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. To continue, a young Natalie Wood played a little girl who believes Kris Kringle, played by Edwin Gwen, won an Oscar for the role when he says he's the real Santa Claus. Miracle on 34th Street was remade in 1994 and starred Lord Richard Attenborough and Mara Wilson. Okay. Macy's Santa has appeared in almost every Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade since it began in 1924, and fans of all ages still line up to meet the Macy's Santa in New York City and its stores around the country, where children can take pictures on Santa's lap and tell them what they want for Christmas. Oh, I love it. It was in 1822 that Clement Clark Moore, an Episcopal minister, wrote the Christmas poem "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Interesting. I'm learning a lot myself. Oh, there's more info on this. I'm not going to read it all. I think I've read enough, but if you want to, go to history.com and take a look, and you can see more info on Santa Claus around the world, Christmas traditions in the United States, and the ninth reindeer Rudolph. Interesting. You learn something new every day. Okay. Bye. I'll be back. Okay, as a finale, I've decided that I want to read you The Night Before Christmas. I hope you enjoyed my stories. Some of them are funny, some of them and this you heard The Night Before Christmas in a different format. I love that one. Legal pleading, I love it. Anyway, let's finish this with the classic poem. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. And more rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, now Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner, on Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that, oh God, I'm gonna cut this out. As dry leaves that before the wind hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up in the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas with the bound. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his bag. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of his pipe held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Okay, that's all for now. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and I hope our chat went well. I hope you have a great holiday, whatever holiday you celebrate. Please be good, be kind, be nice, be wonderful. Be safe. Do what you have to do to keep yourself and others safe. And if you want to, you're welcome to donate to the channel. Until the next time, as always, arrivederci.